I hope that the victims in the case, I mean, I feel really, I don't know what the term to use is, but I wish I could speak with them, and where at one point I didn't even think so. At one point, my thing was that I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. I didn't harm anybody. But then that opinion changed gradually, as I began to see how, yes, even though I might not have actually physically hurt somebody, my inaction could have caused that to happen.
Your inaction and your covering up.
Yes, and at one point I just refused to see it that way, But then all that has changed over time,
Changed over time in that you now accept responsibility for the crime?
Yes.
Or your role in the crime?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do you think you deserve 3 consecutive life sentences?
No, I don't think I deserve that.
What do you think you deserve for your role in the crime?
Well, as far as his sentence is concerned, I wouldn't even know what to say. It's not a slap on the wrist, of course.
Mm-mm.
Nevertheless, I don't know. I wouldn't put a time limit on it.
How many people died in that shootout?
One.
One person. Mm-hmm. So when you say you would want to speak to the victims, you want to speak to the victims' families?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. To say what?
Just to let them know that I'm sorry, for any role that I might have taken and for being so stubborn at the beginning, being so hard-headed and stubborn. In effect, I think that's what put me deeper into this mess here. I had a big ego, and I just wasn't gonna fall.
So if you could speak to the family, what would you say?
I'd let them know that I'm sorry, and for whatever role I might have played, and I'd hope that they could forgive me, not so much so that me and them could be all right, but just for their own peace.
So what kind of peace did the vipassana bring you? Did it bring you some sense of peace?
Yes, it did.
Eventually,
yes. I mean, it's very turbulent. It's a very turbulent process, but eventually you do find peace.
After a few days or a few hours, or how long were you meditating before you came to terms with who you are and what you'd done?
Actually, it's an ongoing process. It's still going on.
Do you still meditate?
Yes, daily, twice daily.
Wasn't there a time, I understand, when the person who was in charge of religious services there had become upset, and you all had to let the meditation go for a while, and that some of the prisoners were secretly meeting to meditate?
Yes, yes, that's true.
I found that interesting. People are trying to hide to meditate.
Yeah, it was a really wild moment, yes.
Because what had happened there, Jenny?
Hi, Obi. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Good to hear your voice. Never quite clear on exactly what happened, and I'm not even sure it's that important exactly what happened, but by order of the commissioner of the Department of Corrections, the program was closed down.
For a while.
For 4 years, yeah. And that was when I received many of the letters that are in the book, because many of the men did keep meditating as best they could. Mm-hmm. And Obi is one of those guys who just kept the practice going as best he could.
Well, in the documentary, the warden suggested that transformation might mean that inmates are faking it for the parole board.
Well,
what do you say to that?
Honestly, there's always that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody's going to sit down and go through the 10-day process, I mean, these are guys who, people who are here could tell the difference between those who are faking it and those who are not, because we live with each other. We live around each other every day. We've been around each other for years. So if there have been some genuine changes or some genuine attempts by somebody to change, it's noticeable by the other guys around here.
By the way they treat each other.
Not just the way they treat each other, but just by their demeanor.
By their demeanor.
Yeah.
What changed with you, Obi? What changed?
Well, I slowed down a whole lot. I started stopping at least and thinking. you know. Started giving myself more options. I'd like to say I think I got a little more compassionate towards other beings, period.
A little more compassionate. Well, wonderful to talk to you. Can you put Grady on?
Yes.
Since you all are sharing one phone.
Hello?
Hi, Grady.
Yes.
Oprah Winfrey.
Hey.
Hi. Hey, Grady. I'm here with Jenny. Phillips.
Hey, Grady.
Hey.
So now, Grady, you've been incarcerated for over 20 years.
Yes, ma'am.
The first 8 of which were on death row, and now you're serving life?
Life without.
Life without parole. What was your crime?
Capital murder. Murder robbery.
Murder robbery. And you say you didn't actually commit the crime, but were a bystander?
Well, I was there. I wasn't inside the building, but I was there. And I didn't stop it.
So Obi says he was there and, tried to cover up later and didn't actually pull the trigger. You're saying the same thing, but do you ever feel that your sentence is unfair?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. Why were you let off of death row?
A luck of the draw. The wheel just happened to land on my number. I filed, my lawyer did, I held on to an issue for so long that he put it in my appeal, and I won in the Alabama Supreme Court, that Alabama was denying African Americans the right to participate in the Alabama judicial system. They struck all the African Americans off my jury, and I won it. It was just a luck of the draw. It's the only reason I'm off.
Did you at first think that the death penalty was too harsh, since you say that you were a bystander?
Well, see, I wasn't just a bystander. I mean, I was there. I actually carried one of the man's TVs out of his place to my car, to the guy that took us over there, his car. I didn't stop the 2 men that killed this man. And like the DA said, and they had in the newspapers, I had 2 black belts in karate. I should have stopped him.
Right.
And the only excuse I had was I was drunk. That's no excuse. I should have tried anyway.
Yes, it says here in Jenny's book about you, although Grady did not commit the crime, he drove the getaway car, leaving the scene with the murderers. Tried as a capital crime and sentenced to death in the electric chair, Grady narrowly escaped execution. In a retrial, defended by attorney Brian Stevenson of Equal Justice Initiative, Grady was released from the death sentence and given life without parole. But there was something that really struck me about your story, I have to tell you. And this is the part that really struck me. It says here, when you were 5 years old, one day, your mother dressed you and your 3-year-old brother Danny in their best clothes, drove them out into the countryside, and left them on the porch of an old abandoned house at the end of a long driveway. She instructed them to stay on the porch, that Grady was to take care of Danny, and that she would be back to get them. And after standing there all night, Grady climbed down and found an old hubcap filled with rainwater. He also found a dead bird. These were the rations that kept the boys alive. Their mother never returned. In the days following their abandonment, Grady tried to care for Danny, who had a weak heart and had always been frail, but they were not found for several days. Danny later died, and Grady was filled with guilt about his death. Rather than blaming his mother, whom he didn't see again until he got to death row, he always blamed himself.
Yeah. Pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So, during the process of meditation, did you come to terms with all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely brought it all up. When you're sitting there, when your mind finally does, after that 3 days of monkey mind or whatever they want to call it, when your mind's racing,
right,
and it finally goes blank, then you start hitting storms.